And that part of it was the best takeaway from today. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you for your help. Great job.
And we have with us as well the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Secretary Shulkin.
Good afternoon. We have over 528,000 veterans in the affected area, and the Department of Veteran Affairs is here to make sure that they're getting the care they need. Our medical centers have remained open throughout Texas and Louisiana, and although some of our outpatient centers have been damaged, every day we're getting more and more of those opened up. I'm very proud of the men and women that serve in the Department of Veteran Affairs to make sure that we fulfill that mission. As many people said, today was an amazing day, and I was honored to be with the Vice President, and Mrs. Pence, and the Governor, and my fellow cabinet members. Wherever we went today, we saw amazing volunteers, and no surprise, many of them were veterans. And again, those people who have stood up to serve their country, put their life on the country, continue to serve even after they come back. Veterans are amazing people who are giving to their community, and I was so proud to be with them today and to be able to see this firsthand. I'm now going to turn this back to the Vice President, who will take some questions. Questions for me or for the Governor from any of the press? Yes,
thank you, Mr. Vice President. Darlene Superville, Associated Press. How soon will the administration send its initial disaster aid request to Congress? How large will it be? And do you think this funding should be offset by budget cuts? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Darlene. And let me say that the administration has already been in contact with members of Congress about a supplemental appropriations bill to deal with the immediate needs of federal assistance for individuals, as well as assistance to businesses that are recovering in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. And we expect Congress to move quickly on the initial legislation, and we'll be working very diligently in the opening weeks of Congress to accomplish that. But let me say we're very confident that members of Congress in both political parties appreciate the historic nature of this storm and understand the enormous burden that it's placed on families and communities here in Texas, and we anticipate strong and bipartisan support for that measure. I will tell you that decisions with regard to overall budgeting will be based on decisions that are made by members of Congress and by the President. But as I've done in the past, I look forward to strongly supporting the President's leadership as we make sure that Texas, in real time, because we're still in the midst of a rescue operation and a recovery operation that's unfolding before us, that in real time has the resources, and that no Texan should doubt as they apply for available federal assistance, no small business or business that's affected should doubt that this administration, this Congress will come together and make sure those resources are there.
Mr. Vice President, Matthew Seedorf, NBC, Fox, San Antonio. We've spoken to numerous people that have lost everything from this hurricane. I'm sure you have as well. And they're terrified because they say that their FEMA's not getting back. What advice do you have for them specifically?
Well, I'm going to ask Elaine to come forward. But at this point, I can tell you, as of this morning, we have actually had more than 311,000 citizens who have gone online or telephoned in to register for disaster assistance. And I am pleased, and I think Texans should be encouraged to know that we've already distributed more than $530 million in assistance. But as we focus on the rescue operation, and as of this morning, there were still 900 calls per hour coming in, and saving lives has been the number one priority of the Governor, of the President, of all of us, and continues to be. We just urge people to take every opportunity that they have, whether it's by telephone or online, to apply for that federal assistance, and know that help is on the way. And we'll make sure that every Texan and every Texas business that it's entitled to federal support receives that support. Elaine, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I support everything the Vice President said. If you can get online, the best way to apply is online because you can enter a lot of the data that way. Your insurance, how to get back to you, that is the best way if it's possible. If not, use the phone ways. We are, I'll call it triaging. So there's people that have mortgage payments due that are currently not in situations where they need immediate assistance. So we are prioritizing based on that. Additionally, one of the challenges of individual assistance for this disaster is going to be the broad scope of where the floods were and how long the floodwaters are lasting. So we can't even get in there to start looking at damage to homes yet. But I would say if you have immediate needs, call back. We're setting up a joint office here where all the federal resources. If you haven't heard back in a day or two and would like to check on your application online or call and follow up. But if you're not a priority, it could take a couple days. Thank you.
I want to add one important piece of information, and that is to go online, go to disasterassistance.gov. Disasterassistance.gov. If you are in one of the counties that's been declared a federal disaster, you can get assistance. And we urge you to go online and register as quickly as possible at disasterassistance.gov.
Thank you, Go. Please.
Mr. Vice President, Jennifer Jacobs from Bloomberg News. Going back to offsets, sir, do you still stand by your position from 2005 that disaster relief funding should be offset by cuts elsewhere? And can you tell us what the Trump administration's position will be on offsets, please?
I know that President Trump's top priority right now is focusing on rescue and recovery efforts. We're going to be working very diligently and have already begun to work with the Congress to make sure that full resources to backstop those efforts, to provide for recovery and ultimately to provide for rebuilding communities that have been devastated by Hurricane Harvey is there. I was very pleased. Before I was a vice president, before I was a governor, I was a member of Congress. And I was very pleased to support federal disaster funding in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. But in the months that followed that, I was also part of an effort in Congress to find savings in the budget to pay for that. And I would leave those decisions to members of Congress and to the President of the United States as we move forward. But I can tell you right now that the focus of President Trump, myself, focus of this governor, our entire administration, and I believe the focus of every member of Congress, the local congressman of whom is with us today, Congressman Blake Farenthold, will be to work together on a bipartisan basis and make sure that none of the families that are feeling that anxiety we just heard about in the last question have any reason to be concerned. That the resources will be there, the assistance that the American people have approved will be available, and as communities prepare to recover and to rebuild, I'm very confident that the members of both political parties will work with our administration to move the legislation forward to rebuild Texas bigger and better than ever before.
Questions, Liz?
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Elizabeth Landers representing the network pool today. Just wondering, after seeing the damage here today with your members of the cabinet, what do you think is going to be the hardest part of rebuilding Texas? Anything specific?
Well, I will tell you that, and I know I speak for everyone gathered here, that the sights and sounds and conversations we had today were just overwhelming. I think the resilience of the people of Texas has been inspiring. To see people who have gone through the horror of one of the largest natural disasters in American history, to be standing shoulder to shoulder, passing out food to their neighbors, clear out their homes, smiling on their faces. It's humbling to me, and it's deeply inspiring. But I would tell you, the long-term challenge here will be is getting people back into their communities and into their homes. When we were in Rockport today, as I shared with the governor, we heard from families and some high school students that were just very anxious to get back in their school. wanted to have their senior year in their school in Rockport. We talked to families that were anxious to get back in their homes. I know as of this morning, FEMA had pre-positioned some 2,000 manufactured homes. We've ordered another 4,000. We're looking to secure additional housing. The priority will be, once we work our way through the rescue efforts, which are ongoing, and we move through recovery and then rebuilding, the priority of our administration, working very closely with Governor Abbott and his administration, is to get people back in their communities and get people back on their streets as quickly as possible. And so housing and finding available housing will be a long-term challenge. But again, the sheer magnitude of this storm, its impacts that we saw on the ground and from the air are not lost on anyone here. The President was deeply moved by the suffering and the struggle of the people of Texas when he was here on Tuesday, and he and the First Lady will be returning this Saturday. And we're just going to stay with the people of Texas all the way through in not just the weeks and months, but very likely the years that it will take for us to rebuild Southeast Texas. And we know we will, with these good and strong people, bigger and better than ever before. Okay, thank you all very much.
I'm Jim Sciutto in the Situation Room. Well, Blitzer is off today. We just heard there from Vice President Mike Pence, members of the cabinet as well. After touring parts of the flood disaster area in Texas, the president's team setting the stage for his return to the flood zone on Saturday. We're following all the breaking news on this disaster. Right now, the swamped city of Beaumont, Texas, with more than 100,000 people, has no running water after the pumps there failed. That forced the evacuation of nearly 200 patients at a hospital, and it has added to a sense of panic among many flood victims desperate for food and clean water. With large parts of East Texas facing dire conditions, one county warned its residents to, quote, get out or die. Outside of Houston, new explosions and fires could erupt at any time at a flooded chemical plant. There are many of them. Black smoke billowing up some 40 feet in the air after two initial blasts caused by chemicals that overheated when the cooling system lost power. Tonight, the president's Homeland Security advisor is warning people to stay out of a 1.5 mile evacuation zone around that plant, where he says that even the smoke could be dangerous. Authorities in Houston have started going door to door to search for flood victims who could still be trapped. Emergency workers and private citizens have saved thousands in dramatic rescue operations still underway right now. Others could not make it out alive. At least 39 people have died from Hurricane Harvey and its aftermath, and the death toll, warns the White House, is still climbing. Today, the White House says that some 100,000 homes have been affected by this disaster. Right now, let's go to CNN's Brian Toddy in Houston. Brian, what kind of damage are you seeing there? You're coming out with rescue crews that are still hard at work.
That's right, Jim. This is still a first responder situation. Look at this apartment complex in West Houston. Flood levels still just halfway up the doors and windows of this complex. Just moments ago, we witnessed a rescue of a man from this complex right around here who had been holed up for almost 6 days since the hurricane. All this going on here in West Houston as communities in East Texas are also in need of harrowing rescue.
Southeast Texas flooding as seen from above by rescuers urgently trying to save people from the water. A victim on a rooftop catches the attention of a Coast Guard team and a diver goes down to help. Soon, 2 flood victims are brought up in a basket. Helicopter and boat rescues are ongoing throughout the day, taking advantage of clearing skies and racing to help flood victims. 10,000 have been rescued by federal rescuers alone. Southeast Texas is the latest area to get flooded by a storm that has dumped an estimated 27 trillion gallons on Texas and Louisiana. Beaumont's hospital had to close and evacuate all its existing patients, some by helicopter.
Our ICU patients, our NICU babies, and our dialysis patients are going first because they're the highest level of acuity.
That's because the Beaumont water supply, serving over 100,000 residents, is out. The pumps are flooded. Officials say it could get worse before it gets better.
We think it's going to crest Saturday, is what the National Weather Service was telling us.